ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवाञ्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते राधानाथ स्वामी प्रभुपाद कृपामूर्तये कारुण्यविनयगुणसम्पन्ना मम उद्धारक प्रभो नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्यदि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So today we'll start discussion from the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one of the wonderful book written by Sripad Srila Rupa Goswami. In the preface of this book, there are 7 points which clears us about what this book is. Nectar of Devotion teaches the principles of Mahaprabhu's movement, which is elevating everyone to the exalted position of a Goswami through devotional service. Second thing, man engages in various services of humanity because he derives some pleasure, rasa, from such a service. However, as it is all a material affair, it does not endure and terminates entirely at the death. Therefore, man remains dissatisfied. See, everything we want to do in this material world, because we get some rasa, some happiness out of that, or some kind of a pleasure. But as discussed in Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada says all these isms, and as explained in the purports of Ishopanishad also, all these isms, altruism, communism, this and that, which are nothing but based on the bodily pleasures. And they have their end. So no one is really satisfied by doing all those things. Then the pleasure or rasa derived from serving our true object of affection, that is Krishna, is perpetual, blissful and fully satisfying. And this rasa is eternal, that is bhakti rasa. The bhakti rasa stage of life is when we engage in the Lord's service with the purified senses, free from identification with the mundane designations. All other processes, they put you in some position, and because of that position, that ego increases, and then you really lose the rasa. But rendering service to the Lord is totally different from the other process, because that purifies our senses, and with the purified senses, getting freed from the identification with the mundane designations, it becomes very easy to connect ourselves with our original object of love or pleasure. Because the loving tendency which is within everyone's remains unfulfilled when reposed in the temporary material persons or objects. It will only be fulfilled when correctly placed in Krishna. And by loving Krishna, automatically we will love everyone. Just as by water, the root of the tree, the entire tree is nourished. And this book, particularly, The Nectar of Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is specifically presented for the persons engaged in Krishna consciousness. So going further in reading the introduction of this book, Prabhupada, actually he has translated, these are the translations of the one by one verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that he has rendered in English. So the first para of this introduction, where the first verse of Mangalacharan that is written by Rupa Goswami Pad has explained here. Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi Parasimara Ruchi Rudha Tarakapalihi Kalita Shan Lalito Radha Preyam Vidura Chayati. So here Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is invoking this auspiciousness. He says the Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of a Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. And there are other rasas like comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is this supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis headed by the Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his lordship's grace be on us so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing. The nectar of devotion, impelled by his divine grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling this summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in the West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sanatan Goswami, who is the elder brother and spiritual master, and he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatan Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha Krishna. See, here we can see the mood of preacher, Here Prabhupada is praying to his spiritual master because by his inspiration and mercy, he is writing the summary for the great book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu itself, in the introduction, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is offering his obeisances and he's dedicating this book to his elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, who is one of the great acharya of our sampradaya. So that's the perfect mood of devotee, the basic blessings of great acharyas, so that they can able to relish and make it relish to others the wonderful joy of a Krishna consciousness. Further, let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation and the rivers of all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information, however, that within the ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The shark who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers which are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of a transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with other processes, which are compared to the rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. So ultimate destination is ocean for all the rivers. So same way all the paths that takes you to the God are ultimately into the devotion of the Lord. The real success or achieving the real object of our life is rendering devotional service to the Lord. All other process, they purify your senses, they purify your existence, and they bring you to the platform where you can render devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami prays to spiritual master Srila Sanatan Goswami for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of a devotional service. For the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of the service to the Lord. He compares their argument and logic to volcanic eruption in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm. And similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical theses, but the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. Yam labdvan chaparam labham na manyate adhikam stita yasmin sthitena dukkena gurunamapina vichanyate. Once, if you get situated in the devotional service, anything that big comes, it will not disturb you because it's an ocean. And in the ocean, if there is a volcanic eruption, it does not create any harm, much harm. So, same way, once who situated in the devotional service of the Lord, he never get disturbed with any material things around. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for his work. That should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement. Following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, we should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we should never think of ourselves as a great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas. And simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into four parts, just as the ocean is sometimes divided into four parts. And there are different sections within each of these four divisions. Originally, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean is divided like the watery oceans into the east, south, west, north, while the subsections within these different divisions are called waves. As in the ocean, there are always different waves, either on the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, or the northern side. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu similarly has a different waves. In the first part, there are four waves. The first being is a general description of a devotional service. The second concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service, and the third wave, devotional service in ecstasy. In the fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. This will be explicitly described along with their different symptoms. So let's understand what are the things are there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So here Prabhupada says that this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into the four divisions. So Purva Bhaga, which is considered as a eastern division, then Dakshina Vibhaga, southern division, then Paschim Vibhaga, the western division, and Uttar Vibhaga is northern division. So there are four divisions in part 1 in Purva Bhaga. Bhagavad Bhakti Bheda Nirupakaha. Divisions of Bhagavad Bhakti. The first wave, that is Samanya Bhakti, a general description of a devotional service. Then second wave is Sadhana Bhakti, devotional service in practice. Third wave, that is Bhava Bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy. And fourth wave, that is Prema Bhakti, devotional service in pure love of Godhead. The authorized descriptions of bhakti or devotional service following the footsteps of previous acharya can be summarized in the following statement by Srila Rupa Goswami, where Srila Rupa Goswami explains or gives the definition of Uttama Bhakti. He says, Anyabhilashata shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnanusheelana bhaktiruttama. First class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. The purport is that one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as a pure devotional service. So what that mean? What is your thought about that?
Unfavorably meaning for material benefit or something?
Yeah, for material benefit and whimsically, Some of the people, they try to imitate Mirabai, Kabir Das, and they wanted, they do chant the holy name of Lord. They go to the temple, they do service to the Lord, but their mood is totally different. Mood is not that favorable as per Krishna's desire. And that's why pure devotional service should be free from the desire for any material benefit or sense gratification, as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Generally, people are engaged in different activities to get some material profit, while the most philosophers are engaged in proposing transcendental realization through volumes of world jugglery and speculation. Pure devotional service must always be free from such a fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Jnana karmadi anavritam. One has to learn Krishna consciousness or a pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service. This devotional service is a sort of a cultivation. It is not simply inactions for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this, but cultivation of Krishna consciousness is different. The particular word used by Srila Rupa Goswami in this connection is anushilana, or cultivation by following the
Okay.
predecessors, teachers, acharyas. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us. All activities may be divided into two classes. One class may be for achieving a certain goal, and the other may be for avoiding some unfavorable circumstances. That is anukulena krishnanushilana.
Mm,
In the Sanskrit, these activities are called pravritti and nivritti, positive and negative actions. There are many examples of a negative actions. For instance, a diseased person has to be cautious and take medicine in order to avoid some unfavorable illness. Those who are cultivating spiritual life and executing devotional service are always engaged in activities. Such activity can be performed by the body or with the mind. Thinking, feeling, and willing are all activities of mind. And when we will to do something, the activity comes to the manifest by the gross bodily senses. Thus, in our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please him, following in the footsteps of a great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. See, two things that Prabhupada very importantly explained here. Thing is that, as Lord says in Bhagavad Gita in various chapters, that we need to engage our mind first. Manmana bhava mat bhakto mayeva manadatsva. Because mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing. So thinking forces us to feel something about that, and that feeling itself forces us to will, to desire for that. And when we desire, that pushes our senses to come into the action. So if you think about Krishna, you will start have feeling about him, and when you have a feeling about it, you would like to do something for him, and then your senses will force to do service to Krishna. That's why engaging your mind is most important thing. Because mane eva manushyanam karanam moksha bandhaya bandhe vishaya sangat mukta eva nirvishaya manaha. Mind is the cause of our bondage or liberation. If it is engaged in the material activities, it will cause bondage. If it is engaged in vairagya or engaged in Krishna consciousness, it will get rid of from this material world. So engaging mind, but as per the instructions of our personal spiritual master. That word is very important. Personal spiritual master. See, because scripture has given us the instructions. Purva Acharyas also have given instruction. But we need a personal spiritual master who can engage us according to our own capacities. Because we don't know our capacity. It's our spiritual master who will guide us according to our capacities. So that personal spiritual master is necessary. There are activities of the body, activities of mind, and activities of speech. A Krishna conscious person engages his words in preaching the glories of the Lord. This is called Kirtan. And by his mind, a Krishna conscious person always thinks of the activities of the Lord as he is speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra or engaging in the various pastimes in Vrindavan with his devotees. In this way, one can always think of the activities and pastimes of the Lord. This is the mental culture of Krishna consciousness. That's why association of devotees is most important, because in the sangat sanjayate, when you associate with someone, the same kind of a desires or same kind of a will, same kind of activities you will start cultivating. So once you get associated with the devotees, definitely you will start cultivating the devotional service. So that's most important, and that's the mental culture of Krishna consciousness. And that's why Lord says in Bhagavatam also, Satam Prasangat Mama Virya Samvedo. Because in the association of devotees, it's possible to discuss about the Lord. Make sense?
Yes,
Similarly, we can offer many services with our bodily activities, but all such activities must be in relationship with Krishna. This relationship is established by connecting oneself with the bona fide spiritual master, who is the direct representative of Krishna in disciplic succession. Therefore, the execution of Krishna consciousness activities with the body should be directed by the spiritual master and then performed with faith. The connection with the spiritual master is called initiation. From the date of initiation by the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and a person cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with the Krishna consciousness never performed. See, very boldly and clearly, Prabhupada explains the importance of initiation. Why one should take initiation, It's for having or creating the connection between us and our Krishna consciousness. This cultivation of a Krishna consciousness is not material. The Lord has three general energies, namely the external energy, internal energy, and marginal energy. Antaranga, Bahiranga, and Tathastha. Living entities are called marginal energy, and the material cosmic manifestation is the action of the external or material energy. Then there is the spiritual world, which is manifestation of the internal energy. The living entities, who are called marginal energies, perform material activities when acting under the inferior external energy. And when they engage in the activities under the internal spiritual energy, their activities are called Krishna conscious. This means that those who are great souls or great devotees do not act under the spell of material energy, but act instead under the protection of the spiritual energy. Any activities done in devotional service or in Krishna consciousness are indirectly under the control of spiritual energy. In other words, energy is sort of a strength, and this strength can be spiritualized by the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. So he speaks whole about the energies and how they work and which one is important for us. Then further he says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj
So,
Goswami.
question, one question.
Yeah,
So, so, so activities performed in devotional service, they do not incur any karma.
Sorry?
No, I mean, because all the devotional service activities, they are performed under spiritual energy, right? As per this sentence here. So there are no karmic activities. I mean, there is no karma incurred from devotional
service means akarma. There is no reaction for that, because all those are meant for the satisfaction of Krishna. So there is no bondage or no reaction for that. It's just pleasure. Karma, akarma, and vikarma. Karma gives you bondage, vikarma gives you punishment, and akarma, that is devotional service. Okay? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Lord Chaitanya states that it is a fortunate person who comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. One who is serious about spiritual life is given by Krishna the intelligence to come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. And then by the grace of the spiritual master, one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness. In this way, the whole jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is directly under the spiritual energy, Krishna and the spiritual master. This has nothing to do with the material world. When we speak of Krishna, we refer to the Supreme Personality of a Godhead along with his many expansions. He is explained, he is expanded by his plenary parts and parcels, his his differentiated parts and parcels and his different energies. Krishna, in other words, means everything and including everything. Generally, however, we should understand Krishna to mean Krishna and his personal expansion. Krishna expands himself as a Baladev, Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Ram, Narsimha, and Varaha, as well as many other incarnation and innumerable Vishnu expansion. These are described in Srimad Bhagavatam to be as numerous as the uncountable waves. So Krishna includes all such expansion as well as his pure devotees. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna's expansions are all complete in an eternally blissfulness and cognizance. Devotional service means to prosecute Krishna conscious activities which are favorable to the transcendental pleasure of Supreme Lord Krishna, and any activities which are not favorable to the transcendental favor of the Lord cannot be accepted as a devotional service. For example, great demons like Ravana, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu were always thinking of Krishna, but they were thinking of him as their enemy. This sort of a thinking cannot be accepted as a bhakti or Krishna consciousness. The impersonalists sometimes misunderstand the devotional service in such a way that they divide Krishna from his paraphernal pastimes. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the impersonalist says that although Krishna is of interest, the battlefield Kurukshetra isn't. The devotees, however, also know that the battlefield of Kurukshetra by itself has nothing to do with their business. But in addition, they know that Krishna does not mean just Krishna alone. He is always with his associates and paraphernalia. For instance, if someone says, give something to eat to the man with the weapons, the eating process is done by the man and not by the weapons. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, a devotee may be interested in the paraphernalia and locations such as the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which are associated with Krishna, but he is not concerned with simply by battlefield. He is concerned with Krishna, his speech, his instructions, etc. It is because Krishna is there that the battlefield is so important. This is the summary of understanding of what Krishna consciousness is. Without this understanding, one is sure to misunderstand why the devotees are interested in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. One who is interested in Krishna becomes interested in the different pastimes and activities. The definition of a pure devotee as given by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu can be summarized thus. His service is favorable and is always in relation to Krishna. In order to keep the purity of such a Krishna conscious activities, one must be freed from all material desires and philosophical speculation. Any desire except for the service of the Lord is called material desire, and the philosophical speculation refers to the sort of speculation which ultimately arrives at the conclusion of voidism or impersonalism. This conclusion is useless for a Krishna conscious person. Only rarely by philosophical speculation can one reach the conclusion of worshipping Vasudeva, Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita itself. The ultimate end of a philosophical speculation then must be Krishna. With the understanding that Krishna is everything, the cause of all causes, and at that one should therefore surrender unto him. If this ultimate goal is reached, then philosophical advancement is favorable. But if the conclusion of philosophical speculation is voidism or impersonalism, that is not bhakti. See, very clearly Prabhupada explains about these facts, which are most important for us to understand. That rendering devotional service to the Lord is most important than anything else or any other processes. Srila Rupa Goswami has also mentioned in this definition of bhakti the word jnana karmadi. The karmadi means fruitive works consist of activities which are unable to help one attain to pure devotional service. Many forms of so-called renunciation are also not favorable to Krishna conscious devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has also quoted a definition from a Narada Pancharatra as follows: one should be free from all the material designations and by Krishna consciousness must be cleansed of all the material contamination. See, that is very, very important here. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvela nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uttama.
Mm.
As long as one identifies himself as belonging to certain family or a certain society or a certain person, he is said to be covered with the designations. When one is fully aware that he does not belong to any family, society, or country, but is eternally related to Krishna, he then realizes that his energy should be employed not in the interest of so-called family, society, or country, but in the interest of Krishna. This is this is the purity of purpose and the platform of pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness. See, very clearly Prabhupada explains about devotion, what is meant by devotional service. It is very important that we should understand this, Otherwise, it becomes really tough to make a serious endeavor in Krishna consciousness, because as long as we are situated on the bodily platform of a life, the Dehatma Buddhi, it's very tough. That's why the first instructions that Lord has given in the Bhagavad Gita, he speaks first about this. Dehino asmin yata dehi. He says that Dehi, we are the soul in this body, we are not this body. So unless and until we come out of this particular platform of a Dehatma Buddhi, it becomes difficult. Dehatma Buddhi, it's in an expanded way, is like doing something for my family, doing something for my society, for my particular community, then for my state, then for my country. So all these are on the bodily platform of a life. Once who comes above that, he can render devotional service to the Lord. And that's why the first thing that Lord explains to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna, you're not this body but living entity. So get rid of this misconception of bodily platform and rise about it. Then it's possible to understand devotional service and the process of devotional service. Okay, so you
Okay,
can
Prabhupada.
read preface and one more time this introduction, so it can give you a clear idea about what this book about, and what you are going to study in future.
Prabhupada, where can we get the actual Sanskrit verses?
uh, I will send you PDF.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
Shala. Hare Krishna.
All right. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Srila
Hare
Rupa
Krishna.
Goswami Pad ki jai. Srila
Jai,
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.